Immigration, it's a polarizing topic, and for a lot of people, the way they feel about it comes down to a choice. We can either be a nation of laws or a nation of immigrants, but not both. So what if I told you we can have both? And what if I also told you that some of these solutions have already been tried and tested, and that in fact, all we need to do to discover them is to look back at the immigration policies of a certain popular American president. Well, the name of the president I'm talking about may just surprise you. But before I let you know who it is, stick with me for a few minutes and let's lay out some basic facts. Reality is that right now, there are already 8 million undocumented immigrants in the US workforce. Imagine for just a second that 8 million Americans quit their jobs all at once. Our current way of life would literally shudder to a halt. Face it, each of us has benefited from, and if we're honest, even encouraged a system where undocumented workers have been allowed to do the jobs most of us don't want to do. Undocumented workers may have built your house, cut your lawn, and almost definitely grown and harvested your food. They add $2 trillion each year to America's GDP. And undocumented workers contribute over $500 billion to state, local, and federal taxes. Yes, they pay taxes. All this being true, there's no sugarcoating it. The current system simply does not work. It doesn't work for American businesses who want to meet the needs of consumers like us while also honoring workers' rights. It doesn't work for immigrants who want to play by the rules and work hard to follow the American dream. And it doesn't work for the American public who rely on the contributions of immigrants but want a system that's lawful and fair. So what would an immigration system that follows the rules of law while truly honoring the best of American values look like? Well, during the height of the pandemic, something happened that offered some clues. When COVID hit, conditions at immigrant detention centers across the country went from bad to worse, with the virus claiming the lives of both the detainees and the people guarding them. So immigrants in detention sued the Department of Homeland Security, and they won. Almost overnight, thousands of people awaiting hearings were released. And you know what happened? When it came time to appear in court, pretty much every single person showed up. Are you surprised? Well, you shouldn't be, because this is actually the way things used to be, back under the US president I mentioned earlier. His name? Ronald Reagan. You may remember Reagan as an icon of conservative America, but when it came to immigration, he promoted some common sense policies that actually worked. Under President Reagan, crossing the border without legal authorization or overstaying a visa wasn't considered a criminal act. Instead, it was typically treated as a civil offense, where people remained free while they waited for their day in court. So during the Reagan years, instead of 56,000 immigrants in detention like we had in the months before COVID-19, we had closer to 2,000. So what changed? Well, to understand that, we gotta go back to 1996. American policy shifted from regulation to punishment, and the harshest elements of criminal law were increasingly applied to our immigration system: discriminatory policing, forced deportation, and mandatory minimum sentencing, which, in a dark irony, was a policy originated by Ronald Reagan. I never said the guy was all good, far from it actually, but I digress. Between the years 2000 and 2016, the number of people housed in private prisons in the United States increased by 47%, compared with an overall rise in the total prison population of just 9%. And apparently, the folks at Immigration and Customs Enforcement, otherwise known as ICE, liked what they saw. During the Trump years, they grew the immigrant detention system by more than 50%, signing contracts to open over 40 new private, for-profit detention facilities throughout the US. And all of this paid for with more than $3 billion in American tax dollars each year. Seems like somebody figured out locking up brown folks can still be a lucrative business. But let's get real. The current system isn't helping us. It's only helping the corporations who profit off of mass incarceration. And American taxpayers like you and me should not be the ones footing the bill for this. Under our current laws, we can end contracts with private, for-profit prisons. We can release tens of thousands of people from detention centers right now and give these folks the due process they deserve. We can provide a path to citizenship for millions of immigrants who are already part of our communities. And we can create legal ways for new workers to do the jobs we need done to keep our economy strong. It's time to fulfill the promise of a country where everyone is entitled to basic human rights. And it's time to share compassion with immigrant and refugee families who, like all Americans, seek and deserve a better life. This is Gilberto Mendez reporting for Bold Rethink. Go to boldrethink.org and join us.